So today we're going to be talking about the LA riots and the protests going on in relation to what ICE is doing right now over there.
After hours of standing off, this situation has now rapidly deteriorated. The LAPD moving in on horseback, firing rubber bullets at protesters, moving them on through the heart of LA.
I also want to ask you about some breaking news that we're just getting in. This is brand new into our newsroom. That the U.S. Northern Command is saying that approximately 500 active duty Marines are, quote, prepared to deploy, in their words, as unrest in Los Angeles continues. This is after, of course, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, had mentioned this. Is that necessary at this point?
No.
Now, all this does stem from ICE going around deporting people who are here illegally. But the problem is there's been a lot of people that's been caught in the crossfire that are here legally that are being deported back to their home country, even with their papers. So I don't understand how that can be viewed as a big old whoopsie glitch in the system. No, you ought to get sued for every penny you got. Pay people $500,000 or up to millions for wrongfully deporting legal immigrants. That is insane. And then to make it even worse, there was an ICE raid that was conducted during a kindergarten graduation, and the parents ran for their lives and left their kids there because ICE was gunning for them. Like, ICE, if you're going to do a raid like that, there's a time and place to do it. You don't disrupt a kid's graduation, because I promise you them ICE agents would not be too happy if they were at their kids' graduations and they were arrested on the spot. They wouldn't want that. And I want somebody to justify shooting a reporter in the leg. Like, the cop aimed the rubber bullet at the reporter's leg and shot her. There's no way in hell he thought that was a good idea. Like, what was he thinking? Fire the son of a bitch. That's what you ought to do. You don't shoot reporters. I don't give a fuck what the excuse is. A reporter's doing their job. Any shots fired at a reporter is actually an act of war against the people and the media. I promise you, at some point or another, and I don't want this to happen, but I could see it happen my way. There's going to be protests that happen one day. There's going to be riots that happen one day. There's going to come a day in time, sadly, where the people who are being shot at with rubber bullets, they're going to actually bring their real guns to these cops. And then shit's really going to go left. And we're going to damn near pretty much have an all-out civil war. I'm not on some fear-mongering shit. I could see it. I could see the forest through the trees. If anybody says that we are not going to get to the point where these people that are being shot at are not going to want to retaliate or escalate the situation at some point, I think we'd be delusional. I'm not saying it ought to be the first choice of action, but people get tired. And when people start picking up guns and taking them to protests and they start shooting back at cops, look, I'm not saying that it should happen. I'm not saying these things should or need to happen. I can see it happening, and every time we get this much closer to it, it's like a powder keg ready to explode. And all it's going to take is one person to fire the first shot. We got a civil war in LA. The wild part is we had a movie about a civil war come out not too long ago. What, last year or earlier this year, I think? There are people who are out here peacefully protesting, as you can see in this video, clear as day. Sure, are there people out there rioting? The rioters don't represent everybody. You could have, what, let's say 500, 1,000 protesters. Of that 1,000, you may have 20 or 30 that may wild out and do some shit. They may damage properties. They may damage businesses. Now, nobody's not going to care if you're damaging like a multi-million-dollar corporation. Small businesses get caught in the crossfire. I do think that is a little bit problematic and a little bit too much, because you got to know you got to have some level of restraint. Like, if you want to target the big businesses, fine. Like, they'll be able to cover the damages, no problem. But the small business owner, not really. Unless that small business owner got a wad of cash hidden somewhere, I don't know. But the best thing to do for small business owners, I would say to do, is treat a upcoming protest or riot like it's a hurricane. Board up your windows. Like if you got to install metal curtains on your establishment, if you got to install bulletproof, shatterproof glass, please do so and get ready to file any insurance claims that might be deemed necessary if you have insurance. I don't know how many small business owners can afford insurance or if they do or don't, but still, if they do, I think it'd be best just to prepare like you're about to prepare for a hurricane. In general, I do think it is wrong for people to come into the country illegally, but I do understand why people come into the country illegally. Because for some people, it may be no problem to get a passport, to get the papers, because they may have the funds to do so. But other people who ain't got a dollar to their name in Mexico, they ain't got nothing. They literally ain't got nothing. And I understand there's some good and there's some bad. There's some people coming to the country illegally and do some wild shit. But those don't represent the majority of people who migrate to the U.S. for a better opportunity. Like, even though America got its problems, and best believe we do, there's people that live in countries like Mexico, like in other third world countries around the world, that look at America like it's a pot of gold. It's a gold mine waiting to just be mined. They don't care how bad we may think of it is, but whatever we think is bad over here, they think that's like a honeymoon vacation to them for a lifetime. Besides, people that ain't got a dollar to their name, they either got two choices. You either sneak into the country illegally, or you got to stay in Mexico and deal with the wrath of the cartels, because we know the cartels, they have Mexico under this gridlock of sorts. They have Mexico under their thumbs. And I understand it's going to be hard for a lot of people to get it and understand. But ask yourself this: if you were dirt poor without a dollar to your name, you couldn't afford a visa, and you're being held captive, or I ain't gonna say held captive, but you're in a country that's, you know, being ruled by this overseeing force like a cartel, then what would you do in their shoes? Would you just try to survive, live another day in Mexico under the wrath of the cartels? Or go to a country where you have a better opportunity, maybe not the right way, but you get in? I don't know. I just think something got to change when it comes to the migration process, make it a lot more affordable. And like, I damn near want to say just make it free and just have people sign paperwork, this, that, and the third. And if they do any illegal activities in the United States, don't deport them. Just lock them up here in the United States. And that way you don't end up separating families from one another. You don't end up separating mothers and fathers from their kids who may have just graduated from a kindergarten. Like, you ain't got to do none of that. You ain't got to go through all that trouble. All in all, I do think this is a wild situation. But this is something that got to be fixed in the short term and not the long term. But with that being said, let me know what y'all think about this in the comments below. Till next time, I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace.